You know, there's good shows, there's bad shows, and then there's shows like this one, where a lot of it is so frustrating that I don't even want to rant and bitch about it, because that would require actually devoting time to it. And I'm afraid that if I do that, then I might get stressed enough to make my hair fall out again. But since I don't have a choice, I guess I'll just have to do my best. Remember last week when I said that Immortal had way too many damn people in it, and how this was negatively affecting the group? Well, here's Exhibit A, people. The final segment of the night, when the entire Immortal faction is beating down Kurt Angle. If you could pick out any individual stars in that group without having to rewind and watch it in slow motion, pausing every few seconds, then you are way more observant than I am. The announcers kept listing off all the people who were attacking Kurt Angle. There's Kazarian, there's Beer Money, there's AJ Styles, there's Matt Hardy. Where? Where were they? I didn't see any of those guys. All I saw was a big mob. In fact, it's gotten so bad that the only member of Immortal that stands out whatsoever is Jeff Jarrett. And that's only because literally the entire fucking show revolves around him right now. Or should I say, it revolves around him and Karen. And I couldn't bring myself to talk about the Karen crap last week, but this week I guess I'm just in a mood to torture myself. Why the hell is it that whenever this woman comes into TNA, she gets more screen time than the World Heavyweight Champion? It happened in her last run when Samoa Joe was the champion, and now it's happening again. Ken Anderson has been world champion for only a few weeks, and his title reign is already falling flat because none of the focus is on him. And I tweeted this Thursday night. They were almost an hour into the show, and Ken Anderson had barely even been mentioned yet, while Karen Jarrett had already been featured and or had people cutting promos on her in multiple segments. All night long, that's all the announcers were talking about. This Jeff, Karen, Kurt soap opera. Why? Why the hell are you devoting so much time to a feud that's completely focused on Jeff Jarrett's wife? A feud that's already been done before not that long ago. We've seen Jarrett versus Angle. Why are you doing this a second time? Why is Jeff Jarrett feuding with Kurt Angle when he should be focused on helping the young stars? And I guarantee you Kurt's not happy about this. Kurt doesn't want to be reliving all this personal crap with a guy who can't hang with him in the ring. He wants to be wrestling the young guys who can. So really, that's the only feud that's getting any attention right now. The rest of the show is slapped together in such a lazy way. Constant beatdowns, short matches, overbooking up the ass, which completely ruins matches even when they have a chance to be good, like Kazarian versus Lethal or the main event. Both refereed by Jackson James, by the way. And Jesus Christ, how many incompetent referee finishes can you do in one show? How many times do you have to tease this Jackson James heel turn before you actually do it? Because you're making it so damn obvious Ray Charles could see it coming from beyond the grave. And even when you're not doing that, there's still plenty of stupid finishes that ruin the matches. Like the Knockouts tag match, for example. First of all, the depleted Knockout roster is really starting to hurt the show now because since they have so few girls to work with, the ones that are left are getting much more screen time, which means that Velvet Sky and or Madison Rayne are wrestling almost every week. That's not a good thing. The match was not good, there was no flow to it at all. There was this horrible spot where Sarita went for a hip toss and Velvet botched it and just sort of fell over, looked ugly as hell. And then the finish. The finish was terrible because the writers had to get all overly creative again. So instead of the wrestlers just being allowed to do their jobs and work the match, you can see them jumping through all these hoops just to set up this ridiculously elaborate finish that sucks. This is how the finish of the match played out. While the referee is checking on Velvet and Sarita fighting outside the ring, Tara shows up and hits Mickey with that elbow brace. Then, Velvet and Sarita climb back into the ring. Velvet throws Sarita into the ropes. Sarita bounces off the ropes. She and Velvet collide and bump heads. They both fall over. Meanwhile, Mickey is selling the shot from Tara, and Madison is setting up to hit her with that loaded glove. But Mickey, Sarita, and Velvet are all getting up at the same time, so when Madison tries to nail Mickey, Mickey ducks. Madison's punch goes over Mickey, over Sarita, hits Velvet by mistake, and then Mickey rolls her up and pins her. Was all that shit really necessary? Couldn't you have simplified that a little bit? Why not just let them work a clean match and then have Mickey pin Madison? Or maybe Tara tries to hit Mickey and hits Madison by mistake. Was there something morally wrong with a simple, logical finish like that? This was so stupid. And it wasn't even staged well either. They were so far away from each other that Madison's punch looked completely fake. She's setting up to hit Mickey with a loaded glove. She's doing this. You know? She's doing this, trying to hype the crowd up for it, and they are not having it at all. I mean, you can hear a pin drop in the audience while she's doing this, because they don't care about Madison Rayne. She's not over at all. She's just not. So then she goes for the punch, and the problem is, these women are positioned so far apart that she has to fucking lunge when she does this, because she has to hit Velvet, and Velvet is like 10 feet away. So instead of throwing a punch like this, she has to throw a punch like this. This was horrible. If wrestlers as good as Sarita and Mickie James can't pull a good match out of shit booking like this, then why the hell are you doing it? Why does the finish have to be so fucking complicated? And most of the matches on the show end this way now. Either there's tons of overbooked garbage or referee incompetence, matches rarely end clean anymore. In fact, the only match on this show that actually had a good finish was Matt Morgan versus Rob Terry, and that's only because Morgan won the match in like 3 seconds. And I will admit, I laughed at that. Because if you absolutely have to put Rob Terry in a match, that's what you do with him. You job him out in 3 seconds, because that's the only way he's going to get through the match without botching something. Unfortunately, they had a beatdown after the match and he botched the double choke slam. And TNA, I don't understand this at all. You're going out of your way to keep Rob Terry's matches as short as possible. Clearly, you've realized that he sucks. So why don't you just get rid of him? Why are you wasting valuable time and money on a guy who's obviously not going to get you a return on your investment in the future? Just fire his no-talent ass. So, unsurprisingly, the show ends with yet another mass beatdown, because we haven't had enough of those, apparently. Then Abyss comes out and he falls flat on his face because Crimson stuck Janice in his back. And again, I laughed at this. The problem is, it wasn't meant to be funny. Sure, it was a cheesy stunt to begin with, but Abyss just ruined it with his hammy overacting, just lurching onto the stage like Frankenstein. I'm pretty sure a guy with a fucking maul in his back wouldn't walk that way. It was just unintentionally hilarious. In fact, you know what it was like? It was like the end of Revenge of the Sith, where Darth Vader lumbers off that medical station. That's what Abyss looked like. So, I actually enjoyed this. Not because it was good, but because it made Abyss look completely stupid. And that's great, because I'm sick of Abyss. And in case you forgot, he's a television champion. And I do think people may have forgotten. Hell, I almost forgot. In just a few short weeks since Abyss won the TV title, that championship has completely vanished. It felt like it meant something when AJ and Doug Williams were fighting over it, but then Abyss won it and now it means nothing. Again. So, yeah, please, by all means, make Abyss look stupid. Thank you, Crimson. So then Crimson delivers another cryptic message about how they are coming. They being the Main Event Mafia. And you know the really sick, twisted thing about that faction coming back? I'm almost kind of looking forward to it. Because at least that way, something will be different. Something new will happen. Because maybe it's my imagination, but it just seems like this whole Immortal storyline has come to a screeching halt since Genesis. The booking is stupid and repetitive, the feuds don't seem to be going anywhere, the writers are obviously phoning in large portions of the show. Something needs to happen to change this up. But if it takes the Main Event Mafia coming back to get these writers to put some actual creative effort into the show, then God help this company, because nobody else can. As for this Crimson dude, I like him so far. Let's get him in the ring and see if he can wrestle. I mean, he's literally the only young guy on this entire fucking roster that stands out right now. And to TNA's credit, they have made Crimson look like a star so far. But that's not gonna last. Do you think he's still gonna stand out when the Main Event Mafia show up? No. They're gonna shove him into the background just like they did with all the Fortune guys. And don't even try to argue this with me like, oh, Beer Money were in the main event and they beat Ken Anderson and Rob Van Dam. Yeah, and how much total screen time did they get on this show compared to Jeff and Karen Jarrett, huh? Fuck you. They're in the background. You know, for all TNA's talk about taking it to the next level, brother, it really baffles me just how little things have actually changed. They acquire all this star power, all this big-name talent. Ken Anderson, Rob Van Dam, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, who's already fading into the background, by the way. They have all this star power, all this amazing young talent that should be featured. And who is the most heavily pushed guy on the show right now? Jeff Jarrett. That's it. So, these are the big changes you talked about, Dixie? Really? Thanks a lot.